Welcome to the Web Design Business Podcast with your host, Josh Hall, helping you build a web design business that gives you freedom and a lifestyle you love.
Hello, my friends. Welcome into the Web Design Business Podcast. It's Josh here with episode 207, and I have a question for you. This is a hot topic in web design now. Do you think that artificial intelligence is going to replace web designers? Think on that for a minute. My personal thought, as you'll hear throughout this episode, is no. However, I am not oblivious to the fact that AI is a huge topic of conversation in all industries. And in web design, there is already a lot of AI that's happening, whether you know it or not. So I wanted to have a conversation about this and just see where AI is in the realm of web design, whether it is truly going to take us over, I don't think so, or how we can integrate with it, essentially. I know it feels like we're diving into a sci-fi movie, but that is where we're at right now with technology. So I'm so excited to bring on a colleague of mine from way back. This is Andrew Palmer, who I've known since I entered the WordPress and Divi community. And I've seen Andrew do a lot of different things in his career. From running a marketplace to building online communities and being involved with quite a few different businesses. And now he is behind a software called Bertha.ai, which is a tool to help you with copywriting for websites. Now, some of you may have just rolled your eyes, but I actually want you to check this out because it is quite a cool tool. We originally started talking about Bertha, and then I was like, dude, why don't we just have a conversation about AI in general? So this conversation, I was going to end the conversation by talking about Bertha, but we kind of flip-flopped. I had so many questions about Bertha that we kind of cover in the beginning, and then this conversation kind of segues into AI as a whole. So just a heads up on that. We talk Bertha a lot, and then AI and its impact in web design here later on in the conversation. But Andrew is awesome. Very, very transparent with his experience and what he sees in the marketplace. And if you are interested in checking out Bertha just as an assistant for your copywriting, like for web designers, for those of you who just, you can't copyright to save your life and messaging is really hard, this tool is actually a great option to have in your toolbox. So I do have a special link for you if you're interested in just checking it out. You can go to joshhall.co/Bertha, and that'll zip you over to their website where you can see if this tool, Bertha.ai, will be a good fit for you. And without further ado, sorry for the rhyming, here is Andrew Palmer. Can't wait to let you in on this conversation that's just casual and real about AI and whether it's going to replace us, what role it's going to have in web design, and oh, so much more. So enjoy. Andrew, welcome to the podcast, man. Good to see you. Good to catch up, and great to have you on.
Thanks, Josh. It's an honor, mate. You know, we've had a few cancellations, both sides. I got waylaid in Portugal with WordCamp, and then I got COVID, so that kind of mucked things up. But it's great to be here. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Same, and yeah, I think by the time you said, "Okay, I can do it," I said, "Shoot, we're moving this week, and it's going to be a little while." So, by golly, we're here, man. We're doing it, and I'm excited to chat with you specifically about something that I know next to absolutely nothing about, and that is AI, and more specifically, your company Bertha, and how you guys are dubbed as the lorem ipsum killer, which I have so many questions. I'm so excited to chat about this. But for context, you and I go way back, man. Actually, when I became an influencer, I guess, for lack of a better term, in the Divi community, we got connected because you used to own a marketplace, but you're an agency owner. You've been in the product space. You've really done it all. I'm kind of curious, where did the start of Bertha happen? Like, where did this all begin for you? And how were you involved from the floor?
Well, the start of Bertha was, and you know, those were heady days, weren't they? I mean, we had a big Facebook group. You developed a great Facebook group. And
we have to say it like this too, Andrew. We have to say, tell me about the birth of Bertha. I feel like that has to be the way we preface that.
Birth of Bertha. But yeah, so our history is good. Anyway, so the birth of Bertha came about by my knowing a lovely chap called Vito Peleg, who is the CEO and co-founder of Atarim, which is atarim.io. And it started off life as WP Feedback. I met him and basically courted him for Elegant Marketplace. I wanted to sell his plugin on Elegant Marketplace. And we became great friends, mainly because we have the same coat, which is just weird. We just literally arrived at the ATL. I think Matthew Lee Jackson did a thing called Business. Anyway, there were only 80 people there. So basically, I hassled him, and we became good friends. And we put his product, Atarim, or WP Feedback, on Elegant Marketplace. It made loads of money. We became really much better friends because I actually paid him. So that was cool. And, because those things happen sometimes, don't they? People don't get paid. And Vito came to me in May of last year and said, I want Atarim, the note making thing, to have an AI creation for content rather than people just writing, put a headline here, put a bit of text here. I want that to be able to be self-generated by AI. I've gone, okay. And he said, well, I don't have the development team. And to be honest, all my financials are aimed at Atarim. Do you want to finance it? And do you want to get on with it? And I said, yeah, of course. So we built Bertha.ai, which is based on GPT-3, currently now using the DaVinci 2 model. It's all open AI. Most of the AIs out there use OpenAI and GPT-3. And basically, it's a content creation tool or copywriting assistant. And we decided, because of the notepad making situation in Atarim, we decided to build it in WordPress. So you write where you work. So it's got a nice little tool there where you just invoke Bertha, whether you're using Gutenberg, Divi, Elementor, or any page builder, Oxygen, whatever you're using. Got very, very tight integration with all the page builders, but particularly with Visual Composer, who came to us and said, listen, guys, we love this. We want to help you promote this, and we want it to be fully integrated with Visual Composer. So effectively, basically, because I had the development team, and I have had for a number of years, we built Bertha along with Vito. It's a completely separate LLC based in America, and we're just growing day by day. It's got 3,500 free users, couple of hundred paying users, which kind of pay for the development and stuff like that. But we're just growing it and making sure that people know how to use a copywriting assistant to help them build websites quicker, faster, and better.
And was the need initially for like mock-ups? Is that where you found the biggest pain point, where people would just put heading 1 or heading 2 and just Latin text that's just junk text? Was that kind of I guess I'm getting out. I was wondering what the main pain point was that this solved.
The pain point always with website creation, as you know, you've taught people how to build websites and build website businesses. What's the biggest pain point? Is content, right? It's it's drive people crazy. And that's the whole point of Atarim is it's a content gathering tool, it's a feedback tool, it's a website management tool and everything like that. So with Bertha, one of our clients was so enthusiastic about it, and he literally said, man, this is like the lorem ipsum killer. And so we now use that as our headline.
It's a great line. It's a great
line. And we just said, right, we're stealing that. We're having that. There's no problem with that. But effectively, you can build out a homepage with all your blurbs. You only need a little bit of text for that. So there's a blurb writer, there's paragraph writers, there's CTAs, call to actions as well, headlines, and it gives you a variety. The most of the the AI copywriting assistants out there just give you a block of text, and they don't give you any real context behind it. And because Vito's built a couple of thousand websites, and I've built a couple of thousand, maybe more websites, and gone through the content nightmare, or content gathering nightmare, we kind of know what people want in the website. So right in the page, there's the sidebar. You're clicking your particular area, you generate your text with context, and you edit it as the editor. So the copywriting assistant Bertha, she'll write it out for you, give you a few examples. Some of them might be the same or very similar, and then you could just press the button and it types it into the text module for you. It's great.
That is really cool. Is it also good? I mean, imagining you're talking about from the web designer perspective with helping you probably, I would imagine, design and build out and lay out a website around at least some content. For the client too, have you found that it helps designers with their clients understand, like, here's how many words we want in this section, or here's how big of a headline we should have in this section? Does it kind of seem to help with that as well?
Yeah, definitely. And also it's in the language that that you're working in. So because it works with all the language models out there, you can, whatever the setting language you put into the first part of the setting, it will reproduce that in that language, rather than lorem ipsum, because people say, why have you written, why, it's really, there's some really odd, why have you done it in Italian or Greek or never Latin? They never ever say Latin, or, but banana ipsum or whatever it might be, so it's better to have some context there. And also it gives you an advantage as a web developer to quickly put in the contextual content around what you think your client would want. So if you're building out your page and it's a plumber's, so you're writing about a plumber in Milwaukee, whatever, it's got all that kind of context, and the client can then rewrite it from that, or even use Bertha to rewrite it. So it's an opportunity for you as a web developer or web designer to give your client starter content without having to think too much about it. That's the key.
That's cool. Yeah. So I didn't realize how much of a starting point it was as far as actual content. That's really cool, because I haven't had a chance to really play around with it myself at the time of recording this. I mean, I've done a deep dive on the site and looked at what it includes, which is super impressive. Like, it's such a cool tool. The idea of like having a foundation for content and SEO that you and the client can build off of, that's really great. You're kind of a copywriter killer too then, right? Or at least the first phrase.
Definitely not. No,
okay.
Definitely.
No,
We've got, and I always kind of push back against that. We've got some copywriters that, there was one person out there that I know very well. I won't mention her name. She'll know who I'm talking about. Just went, "What are you doing? You're going to kill us." And I said, "Well, I'm not, because we're a copywriting assistant. So even with you are going to have to edit it. You're going to have to look at it. What it gives you is that great starting point and a finishing point. You can have a starting paragraph, a middle paragraph, an end paragraph, whatever, up to as many words as you like. Our offering is the Pro Unlimited, for instance, is 500,000 words a month across any number of websites that you're there, across any unlimited amount of users as well. So that's the differentiator, I think, with us, is that it's on the website. Whoever wants to use it, you can also separate how many words you want to use per website as well. So if you've got 20 websites, you can divide that by 500,000 words a month, and they each get whatever it is. I'm not going to work it out because I'm useless like that.
But I'm already confused too. Yeah,
exactly. You've got the starting point of basically anything. In blog writing, if you're a little bit stuck, one of our demo videos, Imran, who does our demo videos, who produced actually 53 tutorial videos in just under a month, which was incredible, ranging from a minute to 10 minutes and stuff like that. But he wrote for one of his clients, he wrote a website, or built a website about diving in Thailand. He didn't know anything about it, and Bertha helped him format that and make sure that all the information was right and in the right context. It's a great little tool.
So I'm actually glad I said that, because it was a little bit tongue in cheek how I said that, but I'm sure you get that question, or are going to get that question more and more, is like, what is the place of copywriters now? Or what is the place of a copywriting service that's more personal and custom if you're going to use a tool like Bertha or any sort? I mean, I know there's other tools out there now too, any sort of AI tool. And I have so many questions about AI I want to get into next, but it definitely makes sense that this is a starting point, an assistant. And I would imagine, again, for the designer and for the client, there's so many benefits to seeing content that is much more than just Latin text or something that's super confusing.
For sure. And you can use it in there's many different use cases. And I don't know when this podcast is going to go out, but we did some partnership deals with people in WordCamp Europe, which is, a week ago, as far as I'm concerned here. We've done them with quite a major copywriting person. So that's gonna really blow people's mind that they are so excited about using this. But as far as any kind of copy, it's better for you to say to the client, look, we've got this writing assistant, or we'll be able to do the copy for you. We'll give you the basis of it, and you can actually use Bertha yourself to rewrite that content, because there's like rephrasing as stuff like that as well. And also the client looks at a blank web page with some images and maybe stuff like that and goes, "Oh, what am I going to write? Oh, I need to write about this. And then you just give Bertha a clue, some context, and off you go. Off you go. You've got 250 words, 500 words to start you off. It's great.
I love the term writing assistant. I think that really helps clarify the message and clarifies things for me as far as how I visualize this, because I'm realizing the more we're talking and the more and more I'm looking to the site, it really is just that. It is an assistant to copywriting. I'm sure SEO can come into play with this, all the things. So that's really cool.
We've got local SEO pages. We've got property descriptions for estate agencies. We've got product name generator. We've got a fun little thing called Evil Bertha as well, little sarcastic little wench out there, being a little bit sarcastic, a little bit nasty. That's quite a bit of fun. Again, by the time this podcast is out, there'll be another little thing which will be only available to pro users, because what I've done, I've always wanted Bertha to be the Grammarly of copywriting assistants, of AI copywriting assistants. So everybody gets access to everything in Pro, except the ability to do user roles and where Bertha appears, but which is kind of a Pro thing anyway. But they get 1,000 words a month, every single month, right? So that there's something coming within the next couple of weeks from when I'm speaking now, which is we're calling it's called a quick win. So you'll just hit something, a little pop-up will come up and it'll tell you how you can do it. And you say, write me a Facebook post about this, write me an intro email about this, write me a Twitter post about this, or whatever it might be, write me a short story about Josh Hall and the fact that he's just moved house, all that kind of stuff. And it'll just help you. And it's a quick win, quick copy and paste, and you don't need to have actually put that into your your website as well, so that you can copy and paste that and put that anywhere. So
very cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about the different evolutions of lorem ipsum and placeholder text. From when I got started in 2010, I think the original lorem ipsum site, that was still what I used for years up until I was really still building sites. And then I got turned on to my other favorite placeholder text site, which was just jeffsome.com, which was just Jeff Goldblum text quotes and stuff. I always loved that. But then it didn't look terribly professional when I would add that to client sites. And the idea of having an automated text assistant and content assistant just to put something in there, but then also be able to expand on is really cool. So I think this is a very needed tool. Now, I would love to talk about AI and the place that AI has in web design, because this is something that, again, I don't know, I haven't really personally taken too much of a deep dive into, but I see the questions and I wonder myself, I forget if it was somebody in my family or somebody recently said, do you think one day people are just going to be able to say, build me a home inspector website, and then the robots will magically be able to do it? Well, I have my thoughts on how far robots and automation can go, but I guess what's your thought on AI and its role, where it is right now in web design?
We're not far away from building I've got, I go into somebody for instance, you've got Elementor Cloud, for instance. Yeah. So they then build you a website, or you choose a website or a website style, and it produces all of your pages for you without the content in. Imagine if you just wrote a brief description of your yoga business or your plumbing business or your electrician business, and you gave your location and address, and a couple of services that you put in there, and then all of a sudden Bertha rewrites all of that content, and just you have produced a website. So we're actually not very far away from that. Not necessarily with Elementor Cloud or anything, but we're certainly, as Bertha, what we're working on is auto-generating content based on, let's say, a workflow. So what's your homepage? What are your services? How many products have you got? Whatever it is. So it will then produce all the product descriptions. And then down the line, imagine being able to describe your products and not have to take any photographs of them. How good would that be? And it just produces your featured image of your products. So that's a few years down the line. But that, the power of AI is can be abused, but the power of AI is there. It's already there to be able to, as long as you have a workflow, because it can only work like you and I. If I say to you, build me a yoga website, and then you as a designer developer may have built a couple of yoga websites, you know where to get the photographs from, you kind of know what yoga's about. You might go onto Wikipedia and the history of yoga to kind of build it all out. But if you have a workflow within Bertha, gives you a workflow of, this is a yoga website. It's based in Wisconsin. It's run by 3 people. It's been established since 1928 or whatever it may be. Bertha.ai will then be able to write the contextual content around the parameters that you've already given it. And that's how AI works.
And I'm curious, I want to talk about AI as a whole as well, even outside of Bertha, but with this idea of like, putting some information in, whether it's service related, location related, and then it kicks out automated content. How does that work from an SEO perspective? And what about duplicate content? Like if I were to create 2 really similar sites in the same town, would it potentially kick out the exact same information for each blog post? I'm sure a lot of people would ask and question that, like how unique and custom would each site be with automated, AI type of generated text and content?
Well, just like you and I, when we're having this conversation now, I don't know what questions you're going to ask me a minute ago, and 2, I don't know the answer that I'm going to be giving because I'm thinking about it all of the time. So it's going into my brain. I'm thinking about what kind of answer I'm going to give you. I'm forming letters, which become words, which become paragraphs, which become stories. And I'm doing that on the fly. And that's exactly how AI works. Okay. So although I might tell you a story, let's say about Elegant Marketplace and a particular product that we had, and I'll tell you that story today, if I tell you that story tomorrow, it will be slightly different because I will put a different spin on it, if you like, for want of a better word. I'll put a different turn on it, and that's how AI works. So yes, there might be similarities between the yoga site that you've built today and the yoga site that you're going to build tomorrow for another customer, but the similarities will be so dissimilar that they will be different, and Google won't really react to whether that's duplicate. Say, right, it's another yoga site. It's talking about yoga, it's talking about hot yoga, it's talking about whatever it may be. So the content is always going to be unique. That's the beauty of it.
That's a great answer.
AI, people not understanding what AI is going to be, because it's not copying anything. It's actually taking the information that it's scraped. So now OpenAI have scraped everything up to June 2017 rather than October 2009 or something. So it's got even more information. It's scraped 10% of the web to just see what stories are out there, and it's randomized and everything like that. So it's got more context and more information to be able to develop the stories that it's going to tell, whether it's a blurb saying I've got a great peppermint here, or there's a fantastic set of leather boots here that you really don't want to miss. Those are the kind of things that AI will do. It will think literally for itself.
I love that answer, Andrew, especially how you framed it as like, if I talk about an old company that I ran today and I talked about it tomorrow, it's going to be a little bit different. Some of the key things might be the same. The components might be there, but it's going to be a little bit different depending on the day. And as you mentioned, AI evolves. I mean, this tool evolves every minute, right? Is that fair to say?
Every millisecond. It's quite incredible what there is so much I want to do with Bertha. I want to get image generation in there. I want to get, complete websites built. I want to get complete books written. I want to, do all kinds of advisory things, consultancy books, or, how to do SEO the best way and all that kind of stuff, written by Bertha.ai. There are certain constraints. There's time for a start. We've got a small team, and there's money. These things it takes a lot of investment to do the R&D. We started building Bertha, or the idea was, talked about in May 2021. By September 2021, the end of 28th of September, actually 2021, we launched.
Now, I have to kind of play devil's advocate for a little while here, because as somebody who has built my brand off of pure, organic, personalized, just out of my heart, through my fingers content. I have to say, I don't want everything to be automated. And I can't personally imagine building an entire site that's automated. I love the idea of this helping in a lot of areas, but I would still, even as a web designer, want to have my touch on everything. I guess one question I have for you is like, how far... Well, there's a lot of different questions I have that come to mind, but I'm just kind of curious from your perspective, Andrew, like, how do you personally feel about AI? Do you think more so it's going to be a help to people to just make life easier and to help when people are stuck? Or do you worry about it just overshadowing creativity and then becoming, like too automated? What's your personal thoughts? I guess I would imagine, as, being the founding floor of this company, you're probably really excited about AI, but do you have any personal reservations towards AI?
Definitely. I'm very concerned about robotics, for instance. I've got a very good friend of mine that's invested tens of millions of dollars into a robotics company. And, I'm privy to what's going on there. And I'm kind of going, because you've got, you just go, blimey.
Right.
So there's worries from that scope, because that's the scary bit of AI. It's the Terminator stuff. I'm coming along to kill you, or whatever it is. The benefits of AI. Let's just look at the benefits of AI from a health perspective, right?
Okay.
So imagine you've got an AI doctor that has gone down 20,000 successful heart operations. And then you have a robot driven by that AI that is unemotional and will make the right decision as to that heart transplant or that heart operation. So that's a benefit. Yes, always supervised by a human. The disadvantage of AI is you've seen these big drone displays, right? Have you seen them where they've replaced fireworks?
No, I haven't. No.
Well, them, because they're amazing.
Okay.
I'd rather see one of those, because one, it's good for it's great for the environment, but they're driven by AI. If you flip that round and put a little gun in the drone and drive that by AI, a drone's this big, it's a 12 inches by 12 inches or a foot by a foot, whatever, then that's the scary bit, that you instruct the AI that you're going to, right, we want to go and get Josh Hall and he's somewhere out there. And they look on the internet, find out where you are, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're gone. That's the negative side of AI. The positive side of AI is productivity will increase, costs will decrease eventually. You have opportunities for the right design at the right time, or so whenever we do a product design, we'll look at it and it will go through iterations of design. Imagine if you say to an AI, I want a new version of Tesla, or I want a car that's going to be economical, driven by batteries, not necessarily lithium, whatever, design me that car. That AI can build that car in its environment and give you a blueprint of the perfect car. This is how this car is going to work. It'll probably be self-driving. It'll have different compounds on the tires. It'll have ultra efficiency on the batteries, all that kind of. So those are the benefits of AI. Mm-hmm. The disadvantage of AI is science fiction. When you look at science fiction, and they've there's that little kid in a program called AI, and your children are all, you adopt a child that's a robot or whatever. That's the disadvantage. People got to kind of almost blinker themselves to that side of it and think about the advantages of AI running the stock markets, for instance. So it's not emotional. Of AI running, being the management systems for any kind of productivity situation that you need. I'm not that into it in as much as I'm not a futurist. Matt Mullenweg did a podcast the other day on WP Tavern. The last 15 minutes was him being a futurist and how excited he is about AI. Go and listen to that, because he kind of knows what he's talking about. But from a productivity perspective, from an exciting perspective of people being able to create a living from using AI, not losing their living. We said, isn't this the end of copywriters? No, it's not. It's the start of a new breed of copywriters. And the copywriters that are experienced copywriters, and they do it off their head, and they do all their own R&D, they're going to transition into being, using a writing assistant, not necessarily Bertha.ai. There's a few out there, but if you always use the tools that give you the best opportunity to do the best job. We know that through using Divi, right?
Yeah.
And that's what AI is about.
So that's the excitement there, which definitely makes sense. I mean, anything, it's a lot like any sort of content collection tool or design tool or templates, even layout packs, whatever, anything that will make your life a little bit easier, whatever can be automated. And that's all. I mean, technically a lot of that is like the crude version of AI, anything that you can get a machine to do, or like if you can do things with CRMs, or like I use Zapier like crazy now to link a bunch of stuff together to automate things. Instead of doing it myself, that's a very basic version of AI. It's letting the computer do something.
You with Zapier, for instance, and connectivity tools like that, you'll be able to instruct an AI. You'll be able to say to an AI verbally, I want this, and or if this and that to happen. And the AI will then build you that connection. You don't even have to click a mouse. It's great.
That sounds awesome. That sounds very cool for sure. Now, so you mentioned the episode that Matt Mullenweg, for the creator of WordPress Automatic, was on WP Tavern. I'll make sure we link that in the show notes. I'm going to check that out after this as well. Yeah, episode 30. Awesome. Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to hearing that, to hear his perspective. And I'm kind of curious about the landscape of WordPress in general as well. And yeah, I mean, AI, it's funny because there's like, of course, when you think about AI, you think about robots taking over and killing everybody, Terminator, Matrix, whatever. As a sci-fi kid, that's all I can think of immediately. But now I'm thinking about it on like a micro level in particular with websites, because a lot of people have wanted to know, like, are they going to replace web designers? I personally don't think you're ever going to get any sort of creative problem solving service with AI completely done. I mean, I think you're right, Andrew. I think it'll help in a lot of areas, and it'll make people's lives easier. Sometimes harder, depending on if they can't make up their mind and, they paid for an AI service and they're like, wait, I don't like that. But I could see it benefiting in a lot of ways. I'm kind of curious, what do you think the next step for AI and web design in particular? What do you think the next step will be? I mean, you guys are on the forefront of the content side of things and writing assistant. Do you think there'll be a push towards actual like designing of some sort, or layout? Like, what do you think the next evolution of AI for web design will be?
I'm very lucky to know a chap called Matthew Renzi, who's very up on AI and visual creation and even video creation from scratch. You imagine, you describe a fox running in the woods. You say, produce me a 30-second segment of a fox running in the woods, and the AI will produce you a 30-second segment of a fox running in the woods, totally drawn from code, right? So that's the future of web. Yes, I want a website that's got my these are my hex codes, these are my brand colors, I want the logo to be an arc, the name of the company is called Grove City, whatever it might be, and the content around, and I'm providing a service that does this and that from here, there, and everywhere. Build me a website. Absolutely. That's exactly what's going to happen. And whether or not it will produce great websites, I don't know.
Right. That's a big question.
Don't be misled that that's not going to happen, because that's going to happen. They use AI now to build buildings. They build, there's a building in Dubai that was basically designed by AI. And it's just a couple of buildings. I can't name them, but I read it I think Matthew was talking about it, and it's just the architecture was completely designed by an AI, and it put in all the stress points and all the, because it needed to go against the wind, all these high-rise buildings and everything. They need to have wind shuttering built into the system so they don't basically blow over or blow people over in the street when a gust of wind comes and it creates a wind tunnel. There's all sorts of complexities around that. So it's going to be in architecture. It's definitely in shipbuilding. I've got colleagues and clients at the moment. Ian Percy is building an electric boat. It's going to be an electric powered ferry. They've just launched it. There's these maritime companies that are using AI and interaction and kind of metaverse type things to design these things so that they're at their most efficient. So it's already here. It's already helping us design great products.
I guess what I'm really curious about, to be honest, is how AI is going to work on a creative type of playing field like web design, to where I built some designs for clients and on the first try, they were like, you nailed it. Like, this looks beautiful. I love it. And then I would do the exact same type of project with somebody else. I thought I knew exactly what they wanted. And they would say, I just don't know. I don't like it. Like, this is not what I was thinking. I'm like, well, I did exactly what you told me you wanted to do. So I guess I'm really interested to see how AI is going to mix with creativity and just the human side of things, I mean, I guess somebody could just pay an AI tool to keep on doing a different version until they find something they like.
You nailed it, really. You just, if you go a sentence or two back, you nailed it. I did exactly what you told me to do. Right. So that's what AI is going to do. It's going to tell you exactly what you tell it to do.
I'm sure AI would have no bedside manner talking to clients, right? It'd be
like,
you are an idiot.
You can say, I want you to build me a website in the style of Monet, or in the style of Nike. I want a website that's going to be in the style of, or in the tone. I want it written. I want the text to be written in the tone of voice of Josh Hall, or Frank Sinatra, or Terminator, whatever it may be. So AI works well under instruction. And that's the key. Is it's not sentient currently. Even the Google guy that's been suspended for thinking that the chat bot that he was talking to the other day was sentient or becoming sentient. It's not quite there yet. But so AI still has to do is AI. I'm talking to you. You're the AI guy, or you're my web designer. I'm telling you what I want, or I'm telling you the look, the feel, the tone of voice, the colorways. I'm telling you that, and that's your job to interpret it, right? Because you've got talent and you know how to put that in your mind. AI is exactly the same. It will only produce an interpretation of what it understands that you want.
So I think it's fair to say it would really only work well on both sides with how descriptive you could be initially. Sure. Because if I told an AI tool to say, build me a coaching website, who knows what it's going to kick out, like what industry, what colors, all the details. So that would be interesting too, to see like how far it would come with like the type of details you would submit, which, I mean, I guess you're right. Technically, we are in the role as web designers right now of getting client information, figuring out what they want, deciphering, the goals and all the things that are involved in a website, and then kicking out the final end product that's going to get them the result they're looking for. So in a way, we're the mediator right now, kicking all that out. That I do love.
The difference between us and AI is that we're powered by, we're carbon powered. AI is powered by whatever it is powered. It's a robot. Basically, if you think about it, it's a robot. So it's not a living sentient being. The difference is that we have the benefit of free thinking, which is sometimes a bit negative, frankly, because we can come up with ideas that, like your client said, well, you just didn't understand what I wanted. I mean, that's that. I told you you're a great designer, you're empathic, you kind of knew what you were talking about. And and all I see now is just a 5 pages of disappointment, So AI is going to produce 1,000 pages of disappointment and 1 page of absolute genius. And that's where we've got to make sure that we don't overestimate or expect what AI can produce for us as creatives within the web world. It's that simple.
Now, what about DIYers and business owners who try to do websites on their own and eventually try to use an AI tool? I personally don't think web designers, web strategists, web marketers, digital people, I don't think there's going to be any sort of downturn for this industry. If anything, I think AI would probably make more opportunity for web designers to help people and be able to focus on what they want to do. Because I just can't imagine a blue collar guy who has a handyman business playing nicely with an AI tool. Like I feel like he is going to want somebody, he's going to want a personal touch, somebody that knows what they're doing, knows domain stuff. He might not even know how to figure out setting up his email. So if I can barely figure that out, I'm sure a lot of other people can't. So I guess my point is, I wonder the role of AI with the standard business owner, average person, DIYer who might be able to get by with a Wix site, but they need a web designer to build them a professional site. What are your thoughts on that with how AI would work with the DIY crowd?
Did you just allude to the fact that Wix wasn't a professional website building tool?
Well, very fair. Yeah.
So, well, imagine a Wix having Bertha.ai in it. So you've got, and again, let's go Divi, because we know Divi and we know it very well. You have your page layouts. Now they're very kind, and sometimes they put in a headline or something, and they'll put in lorem ipsum text. But imagine I'm a DIYer, which is basically what Divi aim at as well. They aim at the DIY market as well as the developer and the designer market. It's just a very quick way to build websites. So imagine you've got Bertha.ai on a Divi website, and you just click into each item that they've got. You don't change the design at all because you're the DIYer. It's all there for you. You know that the images are copyrighted to you. You can use those images. You're just clicking and you say, okay, introduce the company about this. Here's the service products that I'm giving. And you're just clicking around, and Bertha or another AI is producing the content for you. So it really is that simple. You click in a place, give it some context, it will write a paragraph or a blurb, even a contact form blurb, where most people have just contact, don't they? So we've developed a thing, contact form blurb. So there's an extra bit of text that you put under contact. So it gives you the context of why it's call to action of why you should contact us using this.
I guess I wonder, as you're talking about that from just the typical client perspective, I wonder if AI is actually going to appeal to DIYers more than website designers like myself. I wonder if that would be the case.
That certainly is the case. We have a few DIYers out there, and they're loving it. And, I get lots of personal messages saying, do you know what, this is just amazing. It saved me lots of time. But from both DIYers and, copywriters, and there's one particular fairly big copywriter out there that just said, I will continue using this tool. It's just amazing. There's a use case. There's an A/B tester out there using it to just do the CTAs for A/B testing. Using a very small part of the power of Bertha to make sure that there's a differentiator between the other website. It's well written copy, it's well formatted, and it just makes sense. So I think we are aiming at WordPress website owners. There's no doubt about that. So we're aiming at the guy that wants to, or the guy and the girl that wants to build their standard business website, and it's built on Gutenberg, and they're using Gutenberg patterns, so it's very simple for them to put in text or cadence blocks or whatever it might be, to the high end developer that's self-coding even, or using a page builder to make it a faster thing to market, right through to people that are using things like Elementor Cloud and even WordPress.com, where it's almost a pre-built website, and all you got to do is fill in the text and make it make sense.
Yeah. So I could definitely see that. I mean, where this whole conversation is really shine the light on the fact that AI, either in a simplistic form or really complex form, is going to work for DIYers or web designers, agencies, developers, whatever. I do feel like there's probably a very large crowd and a lot of people who are listening to this that are just like me, that are very hesitant to jump on the AI train as far as a whole. Again, not just for a tool like Bertha, assisting with content. I love that. But it would be the trust of build me something in its entirety. I'm very curious to see how that's going to pan out.
Wouldn't it be fun to start doing that? Wouldn't it be fun to have that facility and just to use that for free for a little while and go, my goodness, I built a great website here.
Well, and it reminds me a lot of what a lot of my students do, and what I did to some extent with having a basic, just a template starter site, where it's if you can't afford the $5,000 package, then for $1,500, we could base it off of a template. Give me this amount of content. We get 5 pages, and we can get this up for you within a week, kind of thing. It reminds me of a way you could utilize it for that. It's here's our custom route with all our automated tools that help. But if you're just starting and you have barely any budget, then there is an option here we can assist with. And then there's the AI site kind of thing. I wonder if that would come into play?
Well, here's one for your business, because I know that you teach people how to build with. So for your $1,500 or £1,500 website, the lovely thing about Bertha is that when you generate content, it keeps the history within the website. So say you build your templated website with your templated copy, you still got all that copy. So when you build another one, templated website with all that copy, you've still got all the copy in the right places, and then you just rephrase it for that.
Okay. So it learns and expands on itself every site you design.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Now, on that note, for web designers, I'd love to just kind of get ready to wrap this up with talking about what we should do next. Like, what's the next step for web designers here? What should we maybe keep our eye on? How do you think it's going to be really important for web designers to integrate with AI? Granted, everything continues at this pace and even a faster pace potentially. I guess my question would be like, where do you foresee web designers capitalizing on this? Where do you think we have the best chance of this not hindering us and putting us out of business, but making it even better for us?
Not waiting for content.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah. So, but aside from that, even just AI in general, like,
AI in general will help them build faster and better, I think, because you've got the advantage of using almost an automated process. There's some interaction in there, and that's a very important thing about OpenAI. Let's not forget that the terms and conditions of using OpenAI, which is the engine that we use, is that there has to be user interaction, because they've thought about this, right?
Right.
Elon Musk was one of the co-founders of it, and he thinks very deeply about AI and the dangers thereof and repetitive stuff going on. So you've got to have some user interaction. That's why we've very specifically said that Bertha is a writing assistant. So use Bertha to your advantage to build out your websites quicker. I did very quickly, Josh, I'll just go into, many years ago, I did a Bristol WordPress meetup about, if you are a coder, why should you use page builders, right? So this was like Divi 2.7 and Elementor 1 or whatever it might be. And the reception was amazing. And lots of people have changed the way they work because of that. Only in Bristol, probably, because it wasn't on the web. But certainly the presentation was 35 minutes and you had a 15-minute Q&A session. So either the presentation was crap or people really wanted to know about it, because I was just there for 45 minutes with a queue of people saying, how do I do this? Or what do I do this? What's the best one to use? Or whatever it is. When something new comes along that you can see there's a productivity benefit, as a web designer, I think you have a duty of care for your business and for your customers to at least give it a good go. So that's why we did Bertha.ai. That's why we built it into WordPress. So because we, like I said, the phrase is right where you work. So you don't have to go off to another platform. You don't have to copy and paste it. You don't have to lose it. It saves all the content that you've done. Just use it to your best advantage. And that's it. You don't have to, but why not? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, I like that little quote you said there. If there's any sort of tool that comes along that helps productivity, helps you save time, save costs, it's a benefit for you as a web designer and for your clients too, in all regards. Yeah. But it can also make you more profitable too. If you are able to save money on copywriting or content assistance or time or automation, and something is working well and you can add it to your suite of stuff, then by golly, absolutely go for it. So yeah. Well, it kind of reminds me of too, like even from like my podcast transcripts, like before there was like Otter AI and all these other transcript tools, somebody would have to like write out everything somebody's saying, but captions are automated now, and that's a form of AI itself. So there's a lot, I guess I say that to say, as I'm thinking about this, I'm using AI a lot more than I realize I do. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. Would you back me up in saying that, Andrew?
100%. I mean, if you're driving a Tesla, you're using AI. If you're doing a podcast and you're doing auto transcriptions, you're using AI. If you're using something like Descript, or if you're, because again, that's an editing software that uses a bit of AI to go on. If you're doing a Google search, you're using AI. because that we, at its very basic level, Google is now using artificial intelligence to control what we see. That's the scary.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much scary to it. Yeah. We need to have like a version 2.0 of all the scary version of AI, but at least in web design, it doesn't seem like I'm not like scared of anything. The only thing web related of AI is just obviously with any sort of issue with currencies and monetary kind of stuff. I mean, and hacks and whatever, like there's a lot of those things that could come into play. But as far as like designing websites and helping clients, I definitely feel better with this conversation about it being a help rather than a hindrance.
If you think about it, Josh, we hear the word algorithm a lot, right? Oh
yeah, especially with social media, even outside of probably more so outside of websites. Yeah,
algorithms are part of AI, aren't they? That's what drives. Right. It's a mathematical calculation to get an end result. That's all AI is. Right. Simple as that. It's binary.
And look, with algorithms, especially with SEO, that's why I think when so many people talk about algorithms and then they end up getting to like the source of the people at Google or whoever work on these, it's like these things have kind of made themselves into their own little beasts. Like, I don't know how much control, to be honest, somebody at Google has on all the algorithms for local search and keyword stuff. Like, I don't know how much control they have at this point. I think it's just kind of learned on its own. And I think they're trying to keep up with this little AI thing that is dominating and controlling SEO. At least that's definitely the view I have.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the algorithms are around, advertising, for instance. How does Google decide which ad to display when 10,000 other people have bid the same amount of money? Which one goes first? So it's a tough thing, but like you say, we're all using artificial intelligence in our daily lives without maybe realizing it. Especially you've got an automated Hoover. If you've got a little vacuum going around your kitchen, that's AI.
Yeah, well, that's so funny you mentioned that. We're about to get one because we have a much bigger house now that I don't want to. I tend to do a lot of the sweeping. My wife does most of the chores, but I enjoy sweeping. But on a bigger house, it's like, okay, this is becoming triple the job. So by golly, I'm going to go AI and get a little Hoover to take care of some of that. So, hey, Andrew,
you've got children to look after, for goodness sake. Who wants to sweeping up when you got 2 or 3 kids going around?
Exactly. It's like sometimes it drowns their whininess out when they're in mood. So it can be good. But hey, man, this has been great. This has been a really interesting chat, and I love what you guys up to with Bertha. I was going to ask you kind of your final thoughts, but I think you really hit it. That big point of like the designer role, what web designers. Your thoughts on the mindset we should have to embrace this, but not to be afraid of it, not to not use anything, but we are all using it way more than we think. So that really kind of was a great closing point to this. And definitely everyone can go to check out Bertha. I do have a link with you guys now, so you can go to joshhall.co/Bertha to check it out. And awesome. I love what you're up to, Andrew. I love that you guys are forward thinking on all this, and I'm excited to see where all this goes in the future, man.
Brilliant. Thanks, Josh. I really appreciate the time. Being able to get this out to your community as well. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, keep at it, man. I'm excited to see what you do here in the future, and hopefully the robots don't all kill us within 10 years so we can keep on doing our thing.
Well, if we're still alive in a year's time, give me another shout and see where we are. We'll be making videos with AI by then.
All right.
Yeah. Just program it for us to be chatting along on by AI.
That'll be very interesting. Deal.
All right, sir. Brilliant. Thanks, man.
Hey friends, it's Josh here. I just wanted to mention a couple quick things before you head out. First off, if you've been enjoying the show, please consider leaving a podcast review. I personally read all the podcast reviews. I love hearing your thoughts and feedback on the show, and it also really helps grow this podcast. You can do that easily if you go to joshhall.co/podcast review, and you can leave a review wherever you listen to the show. And then I also wanted to make sure you know that for all the extras on every one of these podcast episodes, you can go to joshhall.co/podcast. We have a post there for every episode, which includes full transcriptions, timestamps, and all the links and resources that we mentioned. So just go to joshhall.co/podcast for all the extra goodies. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next episode.